everyone. On what? Have you not live? Let me share first. Page number 27. ठीक है हाँ ठीक है क्या हो रहा था लास्ट 26 तक क्या डिस्कशन हुआ था ओके वही डायलॉग पुराना डायलॉग चल रहा था वही 6 फुट हमारे जमाने में 6 फुट रैक लगता था कंप्यूटर रखने के लिए किसका स्टेटमेंट संस्कार Who said to whom? Eugene said to? यहाँ पे कौन है? स्क्वायर लैपटॉप को देखा लेकिन बोला किसको? स्क्वायर को ही बोल रहे हैं ना? और इससे पहले एक बार और बोला था वो किसको बोला था फ्रेंड नहीं थी जिस लेबोरेटरी में वो गया था वहां पे एक वुमेन काम कर रही थी और याद नहीं मतलब फोकस नहीं थे अब यहाँ से फोकस रहिए ठीक है और ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड अब कौन पढ़ेगा माही शुरू करेगी यहाँ से माही बोल रही है महिमा
In the first few weeks after they moved into new house, Beverly tried to take Eugenie outside each day. The doctors had told her that
यूजीन बाहर घूमने गया था वो भटक गया था ये सब नहीं हुआ है okay.
That it was important for him to get exercise, and if Eugenie was inside too long, he drove Beverly crazy, asking her the same questions over and over in endless loops. So each morning and afternoon, she took him and a walk around the block, always together and always along the same route. The doctors had gone Beverly.
महिमा यहाँ तक क्या समझ में आया
कि मैम डॉक्टर उसको जो बेवर्ली है उसको एक्सरसाइज करने के लिए कह रही है एडवाइस दे रही है और
डॉक्टर ने कहा था एक्सरसाइज करने को बेवर्ली लेकर के जा रही है उसको बाहर हर दिन ठीक है और सो ईच मॉर्निंग एंड आफ्टरनून हाँ चूंकि डॉक्टर एडवाइस दिए हैं इसीलिए वो मॉर्निंग और आफ्टरनून दोनों टाइम लेकर के जा रही है वो वॉक करवाने के लिए अराउंड द ब्लॉक ठीक है प्रोसीड
The doctors had warned Beverly that she would need to monitor Eugenie constantly. If he ever got lost,
यूजीन बोलते हैं ना तो थोड़ा फीमेल टाइप लगता है ना यूजीन बोलिए यूजीन ही है ऐसा लगता है कोई फीमेल है
Okay, ma'am. Eugene consistently. If he ever got lost, they said he would never be able to find his way home. But one morning, while she was getting dressed, Eugene slipped out the front door. He had a tendency to wander from room to room, so it took her a while to notice he was gone. When she did, she became frantic. She ran outside and scanned the street. She could not see him. She went to neighbor house and pounded on the windows. Their homes looked similar. Maybe Eugene had become confused and had gone inside. She ran to the door and rang the bell until someone answered. Eugene wasn't there. She sprinted back to the street, running up the block, screaming Eugene's name. She was crying. What if he had wandered into traffic? How would he tell anyone where he lived? She had been outside for 15 minutes already, looking everywhere. She ran home to call the police.
बस यहाँ पॉज कौन एक्सप्लेन करेगा मेगा मेरा ध्यान तो कहीं और था, है ना?
No, ma'am.
तो बताइए यहाँ तक क्या समझ आया? बताइए सचिन। सचिन
यस मैम।
बताइए।
मैम थोड़ा नीचे स्क्रॉल कीजिएगा, क्योंकि ऊपर वाला पार्ट थोड़ा सा मिस कर गया।
ये यहाँ तक तो समझा ही दिया गया था। यहाँ से
यस
यहाँ ये पारा में क्या डिस्कशन?
मैम, डॉक्टर यूजिन के बाद बेवरली को बोले थे उसको मॉनिटर करने के लिए कि अगर वो गुम हो जाता है तो वापस नहीं आ पाया, कि उसका रास्ता याद नहीं रहेगा। पर वन मॉर्निंग जब बेवरली जगती है, उससे पहले ही यूजिन स्लिप आउट हो चुका होता है मेन डोर से। वो बाहर जाती है, ढूंढती है, और फिर मन में सोचती है कि अगर ट्रैफिक में फंस जाता है तो वो किसी को अपना एड्रेस कैसे बताएगा। और ये सोचते सोचते उसे 15 मिनट हो चुके होते हैं।
ठीक है।
And then she think to call the police.
ठीक है, घर जा करके अब वो सोच रही थी कि हम पुलिस को कॉल करेंगे। चल ठीक है, यहाँ से मेगा पढ़िए।
When she burst to the door, she found Eugene in the living room, sitting in front of the television watching the History Channel. Her tears confused him. He didn't remember leaving. He said didn't know where he had been and couldn't understand why she was so upset. Then Beverly saw a pile of pine cones on the table like the ones she had seen in a neighbor's yard down the street. She came closer and looked at Eugene's hands. His fingers were sticky with sap. That's when she realized that Eugene had gone for a walk by himself. He had wandered down the street and collected some souvenirs, and he had found his home
Yes,
way home. Soon,
explain. मेगा पॉज। बताइए इस बारे में।
मैम
नहीं नहीं, यहाँ सूर्य से पूछा जा रहा है।
जब वो घर वापस आई तो मैम वो देखी कि यूजीन और लिविंग रूम में बैठ के टीवी देख रहा था उस टाइम। तो मैम जब वो रोना स्टार्ट की तो यूजीन को समझ नहीं आया वो क्यों रो रही थी। तो उसे वो यूजीन को क्योंकि याद नहीं था कि उसने वो कब लीव बाहर गया था वॉक के लिए और वो कब वापस आया।
ठीक है, मैं उसके हाथ में कुछ वो शंख जो आपके समुद्र किनारे जो ये सोबेरन जो बोला जाता है, वो जो छोटा छोटा शंख होता है उसको बोला जा रहा है। ठीक है, आगे बढ़िए। बढ़िए आगे मेगा।
and even if I told him to stay inside, he would not remember. A few minutes later, she told me I followed him a few times to make sure he would not get lost, but he always came back. Sometimes he would return with pine cones or rocks. Once he came back with a wallet, another time with a puppy. He never remembered where they came from. When Squire and his assistant heard about these walks, they started to suspect that something was happening inside Eugene's head that didn't have anything to do with his conscious memory. They designed an experiment. One of the Squire's assistants visited the house one day and asked Eugene to draw a map of the block where he lived. He could not do it. How about where his house was located on the street? She asked. He doodled a bit, then forgot the assignment. She asked him to point out which doorway led to the kitchen. Eugene looked around the room. He didn't know. He said she asked Eugene what he would do if he was hungry.
He stood up, walked into the kitchen, opened a cabinet, and took down a jar of nuts. Later, that
समझ में आया? आप समझने लगे हैं? सपोज सबका फोकस आ गया है, बता दीजिए एक बार मेगा, ये पारा क्या समझ आया?
मैम ये जो स्क्वायर का जो और उसका जो असिस्टेंट रहता है वो ये समझने लगता है कि यूजीन के दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है. They designed an
स्क्वायर को लगा कि कुछ तो उसके दिमाग में चल रहा है जो कॉन्शियस मेमोरी में नहीं है. कॉन्शियस मेमोरी कहने का मतलब जब हम अलर्ट माइंड से करते हैं, ठीक है, हाँ, अवेयर माइंड से करते हैं, अलर्ट माइंड से करते हैं, जो होता था वो ऑटोमेटिकली, वो चूंकि ब्लॉक के अराउंड जो जा रहा था वो तो डेली जा रहा था, ठीक है, तो डेली ऑटोमेटिकली उसका हैबिट बन गया था. तो जब उसको ड्रॉ करने बोला गया वो नहीं ड्रॉ कर पाया. ठीक है, किचन में वो रूम का भी उसको मैप बनाने के लिए बोला जा रहा है, नहीं बना पाया. किचन का डोरवे किधर है, नहीं बता पाया. ठीक है, लेकिन जब उसको भूख लगती है वो आराम से वो जाता है, जार वहां खोलता है, ओपन कैबिनेट, ओपन टुक डाउन अ जार ऑफ नट, आराम से जाता है, कैबिनेट खोल करके वो नट्स वगैरह खा लेता है. तो वो डिस्क्राइब नहीं कर पा रहा है, बना नहीं पा रहा है, बट उसको कुछ भी काम करने में दिक्कत नहीं हो रही है, क्योंकि वही चीज एक्सपेरिमेंट करना चाह रहा है स्क्वायर. ठीक, क्या चल रहा है दिमाग में, जो कुछ नहीं याद रहते हुए भी वो सारा कुछ कर रहा है. उसका दिमाग उसको बता रहा है कि वेयर इज द रोड वे, और वेयर इज द वे टू किचन, वेयर इज द वे टू हाउस. ठीक है, ये सारा कुछ उसका दिमाग बता रहा है, वही एक्सपेरिमेंट कर रहा है स्क्वायर. यहाँ से पढ़िए कोई और. खुशी.
Later that week, a visitor joined Eugene on his daily stroll. They walked for about 15 minutes through the perpetual spring of Southern California. The scent of oleanders heavy in the air. Eugene didn't say much, but he always led the way and seemed to know where he was going. He never asked for direction. As they rounded the corner near his house, the visitor asked Eugene where he lived. I don't know exactly, he said. Then he walked up his sidewalk, opened his front door, went into the living room, and turned on the television. It was clear to Square that Eugene was observing new information. But where inside his brain was that information residing? How could someone find a jar of nuts when he couldn't say where the kitchen was located, or find his way home when he had no idea which house was his? How Square wondered were new patterns forming inside Eugene's damaged brain. Within the building stat house, the brain and cognitive science department of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Laboratories that contain what, to the casual observer, look like dollhouse version of surgical theaters. There are tiny scalpels, small drills, and miniature saws less than a quarter-inch wide attached to robotic arms. Even the operating tables are tiny, as if prepared for child seized surgeons. The rooms are always kept at chilly 60 degrees because a slight nip in the ear steadies researchers' fingers during delicate procedures. Inside these laboratories, neurologists cut into the skulls of anesthetized rats, implanting tiny sensors that can record the smallest change inside their brains. When the rats wake, they hardly seem to notice that there are now dozens of microscopic wires arrayed like neurological
neurological
array.
spider web inside their head. क्या बताया गया यहाँ पे? ये जानने के लिए बेसिकली MIT, ये MIT है इसका शॉर्ट, जो आगे भी देखेंगे, HM से कंपैरिजन देखे थे ना, यहाँ पे वही दिखाया जा रहा है। ये चेक करने के लिए रैट के ऊपर एक्सपेरिमेंट हुआ था, उसको एनेस्थीसिया दिया गया था और रैट में वो टाइनी सेंसर डाला गया था, इम्प्लांट किया गया था टाइनी सेंसर, जो ब्रेन के छोटे छोटे एक्टिविटी को भी चेक करेगा, रिकॉर्ड करेगा। ठीक है, अब देखिए क्या एक्सपेरिमेंट किया गया। पढ़िए इधर संजलि, दिख रहा है बोटिक से, बैठ के पढ़िए।
Epicenter for acquired regulation is the science of habit formation, and the experiments unfolding here explain how using as well as you, me, and everyone else develop the behaviors necessary to make it through each day. The rats in this last have eliminated the complexity that occurs inside our heads. Whenever we do something as mundane as brush our teeth or back up the car out of the driveway. And before square, these laboratories have explained how users manage to learn new habits. When the MIT researchers started working on habits in the 1990s, at about the same time that using came down with his fever, they were curious about a number of neurological tissue known as the basal ganglia. And if you picture the human brain as an onion composed of layer upon layer of cells, then the outside layers, those closest to the scalp, are generally the most.
Okay, यहाँ पे देखिए point to be noted, दिख रहा है ये टर्म, ब्रेन का वो हिस्सा बेसल गैंग्लिया जो आपकी डेली एक्टिविटी के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल होता है। ठीक है,
Generally, the most recent additions from an evolutionary perspective. When you dream of a new invention or laugh at a friend's joke, it's the outside part of your brain at work, and that's where the most complex thinking occurs. Next one.
दिक्कत नहीं हो रहा है ना देखने में?
No, ma'am. Deeper inside the brain and closer to the brain state, where the brain meets the spinal column, are older, more primitive structures and the control our automatic behaviors, and such as breathing and swallowing or the startle response we feel when someone leaps out from behind a bush. And toward the center of the skull is a golf ball, sized lump of tissue that is similar to what you might find inside the head of a fish, reptile or mammal. And this is the basal ganglia, or an oval of cells that for years scientists didn't understand very well, except for suspicions that it played a role in disease such as Parkinson's.
अब आप पढ़िए इधर विवेक, ये रहा एक्सपेरिमेंट अब शुरू हो रहा है।
In the early 1990s, the MIT researchers began wondering if the brain skull ganglia might be to habit as well. They noticed that animals with injured basal muscle.
इसको टाइम दीजिए, वो बोल लेगा।
Suddenly developed programs with tasks such as learning how to run through mazes or
mazes तो पता है ना?
mazes or remembering how to open food containers. They decided to
फिर से देखिए, open food contain ER छोड़ दिए,
containers.
Hmm.
They decided to experiment by employing a new micro technology that allowed them to observe in minutes detail.
फिर से in
Detail.
in
Minutes.
Mhm.
Minutes detail.
minute details.
In minute details, what was occurring within the
What was
occurring within the head of rats.
occurring बोलेंगे हम, correct pronunciation occurring है. What was occurring within that? क्या हो रहा था head के अंदर?
Occurring within the heads of rats as they performed dozens of routine surgery. Each rat had what looked like a small joystick and dozen
Joystick.
and dozen if tiny words inserted into the school.
Into its skull.
Afterwards, the animals was placed into a T-shaped maze with chocolate at one end.
ठीक है.
The maze was structured.
सही तो है.
The maze was structured so that each rat was positioned behind a person's
Behind a
partition that opened when a land click sounded.
when a
When a
उसको बोलने दीजिए, पीछे से प्रॉम्प्ट होता है तो दिमाग काम नहीं करता है. उसको कोशिश करेंगे. बोल लिया ना सारा, ये भी बोल लेगा. when a
no. When a click center bed entity when a rat gets initially when a rat get the click and so the person's
फिर से
disappear, it could
लैपटॉप डिस्चार्ज हो गया. होल्ड ऑन. डेली घर पे थोड़ा एक पेज पढ़ा करिए, क्योंकि यहाँ पे उतना समापन नहीं मिल पाएगा. पढ़ लिया ना सारा सही से. जो प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है because of lack of practice. कहाँ थे हम लोग? Partition disappear.
It would usually wander up and down the center and sleeping the corners and scratching as well as feet.
Scratching
At scratching at walls.
at
Walls. At walls, it appeared to a small chocolate
to
smell the chocolate, but couldn't figure out how to find it. When it researched the top of the tail, it opened, turned to the right away from the chocolate, and then wandered left sometimes pushing for no
sometimes
pushing
Mhm.
pausing for
ऐसे कैसे होता है? फर्स्ट टाइम गलत होता है, सेकंड टाइम सही हो जाता है? जल्दी जल्दी का यार, बिल्कुल नहीं। आगे चलिए। Pausing for no obvious reason.
Most months this called the reward, but there was no discernible pattern in their behavior. It seemed as if each rat was talking up, thinking stops the pro.
लेजरली, जो लेजर पीरियड मिलता है ना, फ्री पीरियड, तो हमको ऐसा लग रहा है रैट को कि थोड़ा वो, जब वो कुछ नहीं कर रहा है तो लग रहा है लेजरली अनथिंकिंग स्क्रॉल कर रहा है। क्या दिखाया गया अब तक? समझ आया? समझ पाए क्या क्या? ये है पार्टीशन, ठीक है। मेज के बारे में बताया गया। जो मेज था आपका वो इस तरीके का था, जो कि ये क्लिक साउंड से खुलता था, और जैसे क्लिक साउंड होता था रैट अंदर जाता था। इसको यहाँ पोजीशन किया गया है रैट को, ठीक है। ये खुला अंदर गया, लेकिन पहली बार जब भेजा गया तो पूरा, जैसे आप ऑब्वियसली जैसे स्ट्रेंज जगह आपको छोड़ा जाता है तो आप हर जगह एक्सप्लोर करेंगे, सर्च करेंगे आगे क्या है, किसी भूल भुलैया में अगर आप जाएंगे तो सेम वे रैट भी वही कर रहा था, ठीक है। यहाँ चॉकलेट है, लेकिन कई बार इधर जाता था, फिर सुनते सुनते तब ये इस पोजीशन पे पहुंचता था। आगे देखेंगे कि जब ये कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस होना शुरू हो गया, इतना टाइम रैट नहीं लेता, ठीक है। ये आगे आपको मिलेगा। यहाँ से पढ़िए, आप पढ़िए, आकाश पढ़िए। द प्रॉब
The probe in the rat head, however, told a different story. While each animal wanders through the maze, its brain, and in particular its basal ganglia, worked curiously. Each time a rat sniffed the air or scratched the wall, its brain exploded with activity. As if analyzing each new scent, sight, and sound, the rat was processing information the entire time it wandered. The scientists repeated their experiment again and again, watching how each rat's brain activity changed as it moved through the same route hundreds of times. A series of shifts slowly emerged. The
स्क्रीन से नहीं दिख रहा है क्या आपको? The rats
stopped sniffing corners and making wrong turns. Instead, they zipped through the maze faster and faster. And within their brain, something unexpected occurred. As each rat learned how to navigate the maze, its mental activity decreased. As the route became more and more automatic, each rat started thinking less and less. It was in the first few times a rat explored the maze, its brain had to work at full power to make sense of all the new information. But after a few days of running the same route, the rat didn't need to scratch the walls or smell the air anymore. And so the brain activity associated with scratching and smelling ceased. It didn't need to choose which direction to turn. And so decision-making center of the brain went quiet. All it had to do was recall the quickest path to the chocolate. Within a week, even the brain structure related to memory had quieted. The rat had internalized how to sprint through the maze to such a degree that it hardly needed to think at all. But that internalization, run straight, hang a left, eat the chocolate, relied upon the basal ganglia, the brain probe indicated. This tiny ancient neurological structure seemed to take over as the rat ran faster and faster, and its brain worked less and less. The basal ganglia was central to recalling patterns and acting on them. The basal ganglia, in other words, stored habits even while the rest of the brain went to sleep. To see this capacity in action, consider this graph, which shows activity within a rat's skull as it encounters the maze for the first time. Initially, the brain is working hard the entire time.
ये ग्राफ है, क्लिक साउंड पे ये ब्रेन एक्टिविटी इतना किया, फर्स्ट सेक्शन में इतना, सेकंड सेक्शन में इतना, चॉकलेट मिलने पे इतना, ठीक है। यही सेकंड है, जब ये कंटिन्यूस प्रोसेस बनाया गया तो ये ब्रेन रिस्पॉन्स करना देखिए कितना रिड्यूस हो गया, हैबिट बन गया और ये रिड्यूस हो गया इतना इस लेवल पे। तो ये ग्राफ के थ्रू एक्सप्लेन किया हुआ है।
After once the route is familiar and the study has become a habit, the rat's brain settles down as it runs through the maze.
कोई और पढ़िए संस्कार।
This process with the brain converts a sequence of actions into an automatic routine is known as chunking.
What is chunking?
जो हम एक्शन को मतलब ऑटोमेटिक तो भी करते हैं। divide part divide
यस संस्कार। चंकिंग मतलब जब हम डेली हैबिट करते करते या डेली काम करते करते वो हैबिट में जब बन जाता है, दैट इज चंकिंग। यस करेक्ट, हैबिचुअल एक्शन इज चंकिंग।
and in fact at the root of habit form there are dozens if not hundreds of behavioral terms that we that worthy on every day
Rely on every day.
Some are simple. You automatically put toothpaste on your toothbrush before eating it in your mouth. Some such as getting dressed or making the kids lunch a little more complex. Other are so complicated that it's remarkable the small bit of things that evolved millions of years ago can turn them into habits that call. Take the act of banging your car out of the driveway. When you first learn to drive, the driveway required a measure of frustration and for good reason. It involved opening the garage, unlocking the car door, adjusting the seat, inserting the key in the ignition, turning into a voice.
कॉमा का ध्यान दीजिए।
Turning into a voice. Moving the rear and side mirrors and checking the obstacles, putting your foot on the brake, moving the gears into the reverse, removing your foot from the brake manually, estimating the distance between the gears and the speed provided, keeping the wheels aligned and monitoring for oncoming traffic.
Oncoming traffic. ये सब कब होता है? जब हम नया नया कोई चीज सीखते हैं, यूज टू नहीं है, जब इतना सारा कुछ हम चेक करते हैं, हमारा दिमाग इतना सुपर एक्टिव होता है। ठीक है, आप फर्स्ट बेंच, अब आप यहाँ से पढ़िए सीधा। Nowadays,
however, you do all of that every time you pull into the street with hardly any thought. The routine occurs by habit. Millions of people perform this intricate belief that they every morning unthinkingly because as soon as we pull out the car keys, our basal ganglia kicks in, identify the habits were stored in our brains related to backing and automobiles into the street. Once that habit starts unfolding, our gray matter is free to quiet himself or chase other thought, which is why he have enough mental capacity to realize that Jimmy forgot the lunchbox inside. Habits, as scientists say, emerge because the brain is constantly looking for ways to save effort. Left to its on this device, the brain will try to make almost any routine into a habit because habit allows our mind to ramp down more often. This effort savings instinct is a hug advantage.
Is a huge advantage.
And efficient brains requires less room, which makes for a smaller steps, which makes child birth lighter and therefore causes fevers infant and other deaths. And efficient brain also allows us to stop thinking constantly about basic behavior and such as walking and choosing what
Such
to
as
do,
ये तो भाई ब्लंडर हो जाए. Such as
walking, walking, and choosing what to eat, so we can devote mental energy to inventing spares, irrigation systems, and eventual airplanes and videos. But converging mental effort is tricky,
tricky.
because if our
Okay,
brain
एक मिनट और कौन कौन बचा है रीडिंग के लिए? सचिन, अब जल्दी जल्दी पढ़ लीजिए. Airplane and video game, but
conserving mental efforts is tricky because if our brains power down at the wrong moment, we might fail to notice something important, such as a predator hiding in the bushes or a speeding car bushes or a speeding car as we pull on to the street. So our basal ganglia have devised a clever system to determine when to let habits to take over. It's something that happens whenever a chunk of behavior starts or ends. To see how it works, look closely at the graph of the rat's neurological habit again. Notice that brain activity spikes at the beginning of the match when the rat hears the click before the partition starts moving and again and the end when it finds the chocolate.
ठीक है, यहाँ तक रहने दीजिए. ऑलरेडी आप देख चुके हैं स्पाइक्स को. ठीक है, यहाँ याद रखिएगा पेज 35. और विवेक और ये आप लोग रेगुलर क्लास जो नहीं किया कर रहे हैं ना, इसलिए आप लोग को ज्यादा दिक्कत हो. मुझे तो याद नहीं है फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर में शायद ही आप क्लास किए हैं. आप रेगुलर रहते हैं, आप भी अब रेगुलर है तो एक सेमेस्टर में आपको इम्प्रूवमेंट नजर आ जाएगा. तो घर पे भी करिए, सिर्फ यहाँ करने से होगा. Today is 25th. One, two, three,
Present, ma'am.
5, 6, 7, 8,
Present, ma'am.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 32, 32, yes, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
ये इधर ही लगा रहना है। ठीक है, thank you. See you next class.